Okay, the call meeting order, the Finance Administrative Committee meeting on May the 12th. 2 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Director Dindor? Here. Chair Riley?
Here.
And Director Daniels. Great.
We're just starting. Glad to see you.
Glad to be here.
All right, so anyway, we're just getting started. So we have the roll call, we're all present. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? You're gonna go to Michael or to Dave?
There's one correction to item 12. We have a new attachment to item 12.
And item 12 is
The appropriations limit. Adoption of the appropriations limit for the district.
okay. That's at the consent section. I mean, I know it's action item for us.
Yeah.
All right, okay, we'll do that when we get to it. Any members of the public?
Chair Riley, we do have one member of the public and we also have a staff person online.
Okay, well, if the member of the public would like to speak on any item not on the agenda, now's the time to do so. Raise your hand or click the button.
I see no raised hands. And just a reminder to check that your mics are on, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll proceed with the action items. We're going to take each of these as they come. So item number 1, committee minutes. I have no corrections to make at all. Who was at that meeting?
You and Karen.
That's right, and Karen's not here. All right, well, I move approval. No, not, we gotta ask for any comments from the public and all. Do I have to ask that every time?
Yeah.
We do have a member of the public online, so yes.
All
You
right.
get to ask it every time.
Yes. And I see no raised hands.
Okay, back to the committee. And no one from the inside. We'll recognize you. Okay, well, I move approval of the minutes.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 2. Outreach summer splash program. Fun event.
And we have staff.
So Summer Splash is going to be iteration number 6. It started during COVID. It's an online game board, water education game that's families. Last year, you guys encouraged us to keep it up and make it better. So we've engaged with an illustrator who's going to design a really cool layout that will reuse that design for a few years. So the cost for that will roll forward. But we're really excited for the new design, and so we beefed up the prices a little bit, and advertising is a little higher to account for the graphic that will be in the paper. And we have the examples of the prices there for you. So we have appliances, gift cards, aquarium passes, movie gift cards. And it will be in all the local papers, and they'll actually be playing online, so it'll be a digital game.
So go ahead.
Remind me what the age of the folks that could potentially play are.
Well, so
How young can you go and still do
that's a
it?
good question. So that's one of the conundrums with the sweepstakes. Legally, you have to be 18 to enter to win a prize, but it's geared towards families. So we're encouraging people to play as a family. So there's an adult that's, over 18 in the group, so they're the official winner.
Got it. And the reason I ask is, I think I saw it in the Pinecone maybe last year or the weekly or somewhere, and then I did play. And I learned a lot. I'm surprised. Did not win an iPad, but I learned a lot. And so, for the investment though, I would love to see us even boost that number even higher than whatever the 400 something it was. And so I was just sitting here wondering, schools are sending summer packets home. And, could it be just a page with the QR to play with your family or something like that? I'll keep thinking about it. I know it might be a little late for this year, but to go home with the family, but in a summer packet of work would be kind of cool. They could see the game board,
Yeah.
or even if we sort of missed that, if you have some of the printed out, is there a printout version as well, like the
It'll
ad?
get added to the paper.
So if there's some photocopies of that ad that could go to the science classrooms all around the peninsula, that would be really cool. Yeah. I really did learn a lot. I was surprised. I got some wrong answers.
I know, I take it too. And it just reminded of so much that I thought, oh yeah, I used to know that. That's true.
I don't know. I hear that some of the prizes are the aquarium passes. The aquarium also has workshops and things for kids during the summer. And that might be another place to look at the aquarium outreach, and get it in the hands of the kids that are in their little workshops and classes that they have.
When are we likely to see the new visual, the new game board?
It's gonna be rolling out really quickly here, so it's gotta be delivered by the beginning of June. So we're gonna see iteration, I think maybe next week, and then give them direction and then finalize it pretty shortly.
Will we see it by our board meeting by any chance? It's not in June.
Yeah, probably not the May board meeting. If we have a draft, perhaps.
No, maybe I'd like to see it, that's all, just
Yeah.
wherever the
We can make sure you get a look at it.
iteration, just a kid at heart.
I want to play.
Okay, well, that's good. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee?
I do, actually.
Okay.
Sorry, the recommendation is up to 30,000 for the outreach effort, so it may be less.
Yeah, and we also will get reimbursed half of that by now.
Got it. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, any comments from the public in the room or on Zoom?
I see no raised hands, Chair Riley.
Okay, back to the committee.
Move to recommend that we approve the expenditure of budgeted funds for up to $30,000.
I second that.
Let's just make it clear that we don't actually approve this, we approve it to recommend to the full board that they approve it.
Yeah.
So just the clarification of all of our motions are in that direction, and
Excellent.
then that construction.
Amended as such.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 3.
Also a continuation of the program that we've had for a couple of years here. So we give away mulch, free mulch to the public to help save water in their landscapes. So we previously were using Briggs. Yes, thank you. Out in Salinas, but they closed up. So we're working with Keith Day at Regen, and they have a great mulch product there. So they're gonna be our new supplier. So we're looking at 2 different options right now. One is what we did previously, which is use a voucher system. So we do an email blast, and interested people would sign up on form online. And then CalAm staff would validate those people to make sure that they're, true customers that should receive the free mulch. They get a voucher that they take to the supplier and turn that in, and then they track it for invoicing and billing us. It is pretty, time, and, it takes a lot of time for staff to do that. And sometimes, people are short staffed. So we have another option of doing a 1-day event, which would either do it at Regen, so just keeping all the costs down and less driving around. And people would just come on a 1-day event and pick up the mulch there, or alternatively at a school. So those are the options for distributing the mulch, but in any event, they are $15 a cubic yard, we give away 2 per customer. They also have the option of bagging the mulch, because a lot of people don't have trucks, so that they could bag it and take that with them.
Yes, several questions. Okay, yes. go ahead.
Just curious how much mulch we've given away in past years.
Ooh, good question. We've had about 500 customers
Okay.
take advantage, yeah.
And they find out this estimate, this cost estimate is part of it is the advertising, so they know about this
Yeah,
opportunity.
So usually it's done by e-blast, which are fairly inexpensive, like
Yeah.
$500 to $1,000.
Okay, great. Whoever came up with the name, it's very.
Sleep.
Why aren't we doing this in March?
This is a year-long program, so we actually divided it up into sections, I know, it's a good point, I think we launched it initially, in March.
Okay.
So how are you gonna make the decision about one day event? I'm a little discouraging. I would discourage one day event.
Well,
But I don't know what your thoughts are.
And so we work together on that, and so sometimes, Joe has a really strong leaning, and so we work together to decide what's gonna make the most sense, because CalAm staff was doing all the validation. And they've had turnover, or, maybe they couldn't make that process work to do the vouchers because it is time intensive. So, we're kind of making that decision based on staffing and what makes sense based on what we're able to accommodate.
Cause each one, like if I apply, then they have to respond to me directly and then, but they gotta send me something so that
As opposed to just sending one email blast to everyone and then just, 5 staff being there on the day of. It's less disruptive to like the daily workload.
Well, if it were a single event, seems to me we wouldn't get 500 participants. Seemed like you'd get half that or something. If it were a single day.
The 500's over the past.
Several years.
Right, so, no, you're right, it would be less, yeah. But it's also less,
I understand.
And we could have it multiple times, so this would be, we've done the mulch out of park thing in the past, so. It could be that we do, one in the spring, one in the fall. So we're kind of just setting this up so we can make those decisions.
I just think it's a great program.
Mm-hmm.
And it, moves the awareness forward, but also moves the impact of the mulch, effect forward as well. Well, anyway. Several times the event, if no more than once. Definitely more than once, but I don't know if you can do it 2 or 3 times during the summer. 3 or 4 times during the summer, maybe once a month or something for the series of summertime, whatever, but I just think more than one time is really necessary, in my opinion. Okay, any comments from the public?
I see no raised hands.
All right, back to the committee. What do we want to do? Any other questions? Not entertain a motion. Remember, we're recommending this to the board for board approval.
I'm happy to recommend the expenditure of up to $12,000 to partner with CalAm Water, is that the call?
Yeah.
Okay, for the Mulch Madness Conservation Program.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for that. Next is some automation contracts.
This item is considering a recommendation for a continued contract with CoreLogix Information Solutions, which supports our water demand and permitting processes. Just happens this is right at the border where it has to come to the board. It's $25,000. So that's you're hearing this. This is an ongoing subscription, so to speak, that we've had going back into the 1980s, and CoreLogix provides us with information about transfers of title on property, current ownership. We can have access to grant deeds and other information that we use to prepare deed restrictions and to enforce our rules. So this is, like I said, this is an ongoing annual agreement with them to get that information, and it's getting used multiple times every day. But it's very important to our office, so we're looking for approval.
Question.
Question.
how, have you been satisfied with this product?
Absolutely, yes, yeah, we're not the only. Many people use this service, it's, other than getting direct information from the county, which they actually get the information from the county. This is the best way to get it, we, at one point tried to go directly through the county and it didn't work as well, so we want to stay with this service.
So I take it this is like a one-stop shop to get information.
For property information.
Excellent, okay, all my questions.
And many permitting agencies use this service.
Yeah.
Because they gotta verify things at the county level.
Yeah.
All over, I mean, besides whatever else they do.
So when you were trying to go through the county directly, is that the $35 with every document you have to pay, or do we have that in addition?
No, so the per document charge is when we actually pull a grant deed down,
Mhm.
that's where we're paying for it.
So that's additional to the contract, but we record approximately, oh,
$25,000 covers most of what we pull down in the way of grant deeds.
okay,
So it's, I think we make a payment monthly to them. And they charge us if we have pulled down 15 or 20 or whatever.
got it,
And it's paid on a monthly basis.
got it, okay. And there was one other question I had and I'm not finding it, but that's fine, sounds good.
Thanks.
Well, you still have time.
I don't remember what it was.
It's gonna come up again.
All
Okay,
right,
okay, any comments from the public?
Chair Riley, you see no raised hands.
No raising hands, I'll go back to the committee.
oh, I understand now the connection, okay, sorry, took me a second.
So I want to get in on the action, so I make a motion.
Okay.
The action for the board.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 4 passes. Item number 5, recording fees.
And this is also related to our enforcement practices. We have an agreement with a company, a corporation service company, that does electronic recording of our documents with the county. And so, again, we get charged based on the number of documents that we actually record. Most of our recording fees are reimbursed by the applicants for permits. However, there are some that the district does pay for, and particularly right now with the amnesty period, we're paying for reservation of various documents. But again, this is an ongoing service we've had for a number of years. And it has streamlined the amount of time that's necessary to process permits, because we literally can record documents within 15 minutes at times. Before that, we had a courier service that had to go over to the county once a week and stand there while it was recorded. So this is much more efficient, and we're looking for your support on this.
I'll start by saying now that I completely understand this one, since I was on the wrong item last time. I don't have any questions.
Any other questions, Becca?
no, I was looking for the name of the company because I want to know if they can do it for my office too.
Yeah, spread the usefulness. Okay, I entertain a motion.
I'll move
Approval.
that we recommend that the board approve the expenditure of $60,000 for recording fees for fiscal year 2025-2026.
Second,
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 5 passes. Item number 6 is public outreach services.
And this item is a request to continue contracting with Wellman Ad for outreach services for the next fiscal year. We have agreed that we will maintain the retainer at $7,875 a month, which is what we've had for the last couple of years. We have had we believe that Wellman has been successful with our outreach program and are happy to continue working with them for this next fiscal year. We're looking for your support.
Yeah, I've been very pleased with the work that he's produced in the district. I can just very prominent, I think, in his work, and it calls attention to itself, which is what we want.
And as a member of the outreach committee, we're really happy with his willingness to listen and adapt and adjust as we make recommendations. So we're happy with him as well.
Okay, any questions or comments from the committee anymore? Go out to the public, please.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'll just say that I got to see the annual report. It was very attractive, and I'm very familiar with Phil Wellman's work and think it's extremely high quality and very well done. I think I share some of the concerns my predecessor shared, but I don't at all want to open that can of worms here or bring up the past. And so I think I'd like to just abstain from this item, if that would be possible.
Fair enough. Out to the public for comment, questions?
Chair Rarely, I see no raised hands.
All right, back to the board. I have a committee. I'll move approval of this contract and recommend the board approval.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Abstentions?
One, aye.
One abstention. Okay, motion passes 2 with 1 abstention. All right. I wanted to. Oh, I'll stay for later. Okay, next item number 7 is a contract with our lobbyist services we get. So the state contract with JEA Associates. Who will be presenting this?
Well, I texted Mike to go ahead and do it, but either of us can do it.
Oh, Joe Lawson. No,
Really?
yeah.
So we've been working for JEA for a number of years, and so just in the short time I've been here, we've utilized them a number of times already to discuss a couple of strategy session or concepts, how to move forward with a couple of different issues. Obviously, they've provided us information related to bill tracking, helping us to get meetings with different representatives, things of that nature. So, really am excited to bring this to the board for their approval of a advocacy contract with JEA and Associates. And obviously I can answer questions, but also Dave can answer questions if there's any board has any questions about what this contract means or how do we go about approving it each and every year.
Yeah, I'm familiar with their work, and they do a lot of work. Anyway, and well done. I mean, it's not just what they do, but how well it's done. Any comments or questions other from the committee? Yes.
Yes, I have questions and some regarding this one as well as for the next item. And it's nothing personal about any particular lobbying firm, just having had the opportunity to be on the other side, accepting meetings and sitting with the senator. And this is a question I would probably ask of every single agency I would sit on when I look at a contract of this size. And I think of all the other contracts with all of the other agencies throughout the state of California, it seems like a lot of money for what we get back. And I just wonder, do we have regular requests for proposals that we go through for lobbying firms? Mostly just to sort of hold them to their game, to make sure, and again, this is not personal or about this one, but to make sure that they're really delivering, right? I've sat in on many of these meetings that you actually get with the various legislators. I remember the conversation. I was the recipient of the letters regarding condition 2 on the cease and desist order. I was a recipient as a staffer of the letter that went regarding the HCD state conflict with State Water Resources Control Board and whether it's housing or water and how those were in conflict. And I just want to make sure that whoever we're using, you know, knows we really want results. Like it feels like a game to me. And I don't want to see us wasting money and not getting, I can't obviously speak to the aqua advocacy meetings or anything like that. You know, that's something I'm not part of or privy to. But, you know, if we don't have regular RFPs, I think we kind of should, even if we go with the same person, to sort of say, you know, this is a big investment of $54,000 from our agency annually, and we want to make sure we're really getting what we can.
Well, good point. And there's a sizable amount of money on the next contract as well. So the comments apply to both.
Both, absolutely.
Yeah, so with regard to both contracts, this one and the next one, there is no increase in fee. So we reached out to them, said, you know, we lost the taxpayers lawsuit, et cetera. Can you hold your fees? The next one, the Ferguson Group, 2 years ago, we actually asked them to discount their fee because we were kind of winding up a lot of our federal funding requests, which they did. They moved it from $96,000 a year down to $60,000, and then we had a 1 inflationary increase on it. So they've been very good about managing costs. We have gone out to the street, not every year, not every 2 to 3 years, but we have gone out to check pricing, to check availability. When the last one we did federally, the 2 other firms, one of the respondents has subsequently disbanded. So we probably avoided a problem there. But on the state level, yeah, you know, I think maybe next year we could do a review. You know, Mike comes in having worked with different state folks than JEA. I can tell you right now, we're doing quite a bit with JEA on with 2 bills of concern. One is the enforcement of the non-functional turf portion of the conservation as a California way of life legislation. And then the second one is a Senate bill from State Senator Padilla out of Chula Vista, San Diego area, which deals with a Public Utilities Commission mechanism. And we've got a whole strategy built in place. In fact, I was on the phone with JEA today about it. And they're tracking the fact that we may not have to do a letter writing campaign as we've planned. And Mike has researched because the PUC may have gotten it onto a suspend list due to an increased appropriation. So the work is getting done. A lot of it is probably boring, and we don't highlight it very frequently. And so you tend to see things like the bill tracking, but you may recall a year ago and then a year before that, we attempted to get some fix-it legislation in place for our LAFCO situation. And they were, you know, very instrumental in setting up meetings with legislative advisors and chief of staff. You know, Richard Stapler since moved on. So I know Senator Laird's staff, there's been some changeover, but they've done.
That's a great example, not to interrupt you, but I'm sorry, but I mean, I was there at the table and made sure those meetings happened and that the right people were in the room, not a lobbying firm. Just, I mean, and I'm really not meaning to be devil's advocate here, but and I think they're probably all the things, if we can get the Padilla bill on the suspend list, that's huge. I'm just saying, let's make sure we're holding people's feet to the fire and we're getting, and this, I would say, in any agency I was sitting at the table and any proposal that came forward, just because it seems like a really good game to be in if you were a lobbyist. I'll just leave it there.
A point well taken.
Well, and I want to add to it, in my previous life, I was kind of a liaison with whatever, my previous life. And I was concerned in two areas. One is what they do for around legislation in general. They do it for multiple clients. It's the same research that gets repeated over and over and over, is reported out to 50 different agencies or 75 or whatever number they have. The other thing is, are there specific actions that we are seeking out of the legislature? And that then requires something unique. And I just don't know if there's a way to write the contract so that there are two different components of what the costs are. Because knowing what the costs are for just every client gets the same, same kind of research. They may be interested in different pieces of legislation. But that's at the local level. They're still doing the same research for everybody. And when do we need them for individual efforts? Which is where the staff of, the legislator comes in, or the staff of the consultant. Where is that difference? And who's being held accountable for that effort? And then what's it cost? I mean, I'm just a thought process about splitting it into two pieces of how you ask for it.
Totally.
Yeah, just keep in mind all of these retainer style agreements. Some years you get more value out and some years you don't. But we typically, when I say we, special districts typically don't hire a consultant one year and drop them the next year, hire them again when they're making something. So you're gonna get periods of time where you're like, what are we getting for this? And that does happen.
So to piggyback off of Kate's comment, is there a way to set up a regular, even if it's a quarterly report from these agencies?
That's the schedule we're on right now. So the Legislative Advocacy Committee meets quarterly, and we summarize what's happened. If there's a release of governor's budget, we'll highlight what's happening there, focusing on the state for this instance right now. So there is a quarterly update, but then there's other stuff. And I call, so we had actually drafted some cleanup legislation. Lori Johnson at JEA took it to committee. The committee consultants gave some feedback. We had to make a decision about what the next steps would be. That would get reported on probably without the granular level of detail. But there are things that we do that are very unique to just our needs or our situation. And even the comment of the same research, well, we do our bill tracker and we say, well, we're really only interested in these. And then of that, there's a subset where early on in the season, we'll try to walk the committee through and have some initial indicators so that when later Aqua, our industry association, or CSDA, Special Districts Association, has a position and they want support, that we've already looked at it, and our legislative committee has already heard of the bill and that we wanted to have a support letter or a opposed unless amended letter or opposed, so some of that is also transacting during those quarterly meetings, but it's the stuff in between. Mike just did a wonderful kind of overlay of Assembly and Senate members whose districts covered investor-owned water utilities. In case we are, the one known special district that oversees the same boundary or inside our boundary is Cal-Am. There are very few others in the same place, but they're trying to slip a sneaky little bill through, and we may be the ones to send these letters. And so that legwork, is in conjunction with the advice of JEA, who says, okay, you're going to get the suspend list released next Friday, this Friday. And then, here's when the sessions in place. So here's the window for when you should write your letters and send them and so forth. So there's that game planning that goes on all the time. So there is reporting quarterly. There's summarizing some of the nitty gritty that we did during that quarter. And then there's just, stuff that's staff level work that may or may not get reported back to the board.
I have a question. The Monterey Peninsula Water Management Board of Directors, we have a advocacy committee or a ledge committee or both?
It's legislative advocacy committee.
Okay, because I was just thinking, going back to the conversation about when we were working on the LAFCO situation and trying for legislation, like that was really to commend you, Dave, your work with staff directly at a ledge office. I'm wondering if in those meetings where you have the legislative advocacy and the lobbying firm there at the meeting, at the county level, every single elected official's office is invited to the ledge committee meeting just to be there, like in the audience, right? Or on the Zoom. And even if it's not every month that the legislative advocacy meeting meets, at least once a year, especially when it's some time that we're desperately trying to push forward something like when we were trying to fix use legislation to fix the LAFCO situation, inviting staffers from each of the assembly member's office, the senator's office, and perhaps the congressperson's office, and at least everyone's on a Zoom together. It's a public meeting, but people can hear directly how we need our legislative offices to be working with us, and your lobbyists are there too. So there's that. I mean, I don't know that there's that same familiarity as you have at the county level, and there's no reason why there shouldn't be. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Well, it gets complicated. But we are unique in maybe needing some state engagement on some of our issues. And then we're unique in all of the entire state. Or there's a rare that we line up with another ally of interest, at least the deep interest that we have. Okay, any other comments and questions, suggestions, reactions? All, I'm going to go out to the public.
Chair Riley, I see no raised hands.
Okay, back to the committee. Their recommendation to go forward. I'd recommend approval to recommend that the board approve this agreement with JEA.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Much this conversation applies to the next item number 9, which is the federal level Ferguson Group.
So I'll just kind of dovetail on some of the things that Dave just said about the JEA, but as far as the Ferguson Group, obviously Ferguson Group is a federal advocacy firm, and they deal with things more in the Washington DC area as it pertains to funding opportunities, things of that nature. Obviously, the federal resources potentially could be drying up as we speak, but there's a couple of things that TFG does for us. We typically have a meeting with the Bureau of Reclamation twice a year, and TFG represents us there along with the Monterey One Water to talk about, local water projects, supplies, and issues that are important to us. There's a bill coming up. It's from Congressman Costa. It talks about water supply projects, groundwater replenishment. So we're going to talk to the Bureau about that. And then we were just on a call right before this meeting about Army Corps of Engineers and some of the different opportunities they have about funding and, all the different things that are moving in the district, whether it's, water supply, flood reduction, things of that nature. So having the ability to have the right context, getting to the right person is really important. I can obviously advocate for that because without some of the federal connections that you get, you know, you may or may not be eligible for, you know, grant funding. And just speaking from experience, you know, the expansion of Pure Water Monterey, I know that people may or may not like that, but you know, the project is roughly 60 or $70 million. And with the help of the district and Monterey One Water, they got grant funding of 42 million.
Nice.
So, you know, you just break it down equivalently, that's only like a $20 million project. So without this representation, without, you know, finding those right leads to follow up on as a staff, then some of these efforts may not come to fruition, but really excited. I mean, we worked with the Ferguson Group. When I was at the Monterey One, worked with them for many, many years, just in coordination. So I hope the board will move forward with this and the committee will move forward with this. And I do agree with you, that, you know, opening up for an RFP is not uncommon, and, you know, let the best firm win.
Well, we're entering a phase where we don't know what the federal position is going to be for not only local needs in general throughout the country, but directly related to California. So,
Well, to be honest, we don't know what the state's gonna happen either. I mean, whether grant funding or any opportunities for loans or anything from the state could be in jeopardy.
Yeah.
often they want to patch them together. I mean, you want some of the state to the same project that the feds might support as well, and so, yeah. Dave, were you going to say something?
I was just gonna, Mike mentioned that we were on a call at 1 o'clock before this meeting. And that's really emblematic of our relationship with the Ferguson Group. In addition to the 30 million that we got through the Bureau of Reclamation for Pure Water Monterey base and expansion, we have a $20 million authorization through the Water Resources Development Act of 2020. And the call that we were just on, or Zoom that we were just on, stressed how it's kind of a three-step process, and an authorization is not the same as an appropriation, but you have to have an authorization. Well, we've got that vehicle in place totally as a result of the Ferguson Group saying, hey, you want to do this? Let's be opportunistic. And so we've already got the authorization, and now we keep year in and year out trying to see if money will survive that we can pull down the appropriation. But, you know, that's the way that was worded, was $20 million for water and wastewater projects to the benefit of the Monterey Peninsula. That covers a lot. So we don't think a lot of these things up ourselves. We need guidance, and they've been good. They've been good at guiding.
George?
Yeah, good to hear. Yes.
At risk of just making the state lobbyists feel like I was picking on them, my questions would be the same for the federal as well. And agree with everything that's also been said. I mean, I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater, but same questions would remain from the state over to the federal.
Yes, and I understand that.
Yeah, and we've also had some issues. Just as an example, Director Daniels, the county has used Nossaman, and then followed an individual to Ballard's Far, but Nossaman also had represented California American at the state level. And so when we went out previously, there were some conflict of interest issues that, and I kind of share on the federal level. There was a former Assistant Secretary for Water and Science, Hal Furman, who had a lobbying firm for federal. And that's the example of when the guy retired, the firm broke up. And so there they were bidding on our business, and a year later they broke up. And so you sometimes never know, but I think your characterization of it earlier, you know, pretty good business to be in. Yeah, it's pretty low overhead. It's people, primarily people and computers and phones. And so
Relationships.
yeah, the revenue doesn't have a whole lot of expense side.
Well, this is a good discussion.
Yeah.
And just thinking ahead that, yeah, time to review, maybe. We'll see. So I will move approval of, recommend the board approve this contract with Ferguson Group.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Motion carries. And some of this discussion or questions will be repeated at the board meeting for the benefit of the full board. Okay, on to item number 9, treasurer's report.
Yes, I'll be going over the next series of items, and please excuse me, I have a little bit of a scratchy throat, so please excuse my occasional cough. So some of these items are pretty routine, and the committee is used to seeing them every month. I'll start off with the treasurer's report for the month of March. Not much of a movement in terms of cash and investments. We started the month with about 32 million in cash and investments and ended the month with 32.25 million. And we had rebate payments of about 38,700 for the months of January and February. We received fee deposits of about 2.3 million. The big ones included sale of water, 1.4 million in sale of water for the month of February. Then we also had user fees, a little less than 500,000 coming in, and then about 350,000 in grant payments. So those were the big collections or deposits. And then on the disbursement side, we dispersed about 2.2 million, and a detailed listing of those disbursements is shown in Exhibit B. And then Exhibit C provides a statement of revenues and expenditures, which I'll go into more detail in the next item. One thing to note in Exhibit C is there's some reallocation of user fees based on the mid-year budget. So there are some funds that show a negative user fee, but that's just a reallocation. And if we net it out, we still received about 480,000 in user fees for the month of March. So that's my brief report. And since this is Daniel's first committee meeting, I'm happy to dig into a little bit more detail. We have 2 bank accounts and 3 investment accounts. 1 checking account, 1 money market account, and then the 3 investment accounts are with California Class, LAIF, which is the Local Agency Investment Fund, and Multi-Bank Securities, which has the bank cities.
Thank you.
And that's my brief report.
Yeah, I have no questions at all. Becca, would you have any comments at all?
I do not.
Let's go out to the public.
Chair Riley, I see no raised hands.
Okay, back to the committee. I will initiate action on this one as well. I recommend that we recommend this to the full board for approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 9, whatever, 10, whatever it was, 9 is approved. Treasurer's report for March. Okay, next item, number 10.
Yeah, so item 10 is the third quarter financial activity report for the current fiscal year. And in this report, we are comparing the year-to-date actuals with the year-to-date budget. So in other words, whatever we have received and whatever we have paid until March with the prorated budget, which is 75% of the total adopted budget. So we're comparing those two. And just in terms of big picture, in Exhibit A, you will see that we have expended about 21 million until March, which is about 63% of our year-to-date budget, which is the last subtotal here. And then in terms of revenues, we have received 26 million, which is about 80% of our estimated revenues. And the way that I like to look at this is if the revenues are covering our expenditures, then we are in good shape budget-wise, and that seems to be happening here. And then I'll just go into the details a little bit. And so starting with the expenditures, this graph is comparing the year-to-date actuals in gray with the year-to-date budget in the black bar. And In terms of operating budget, we're doing fine. We're tracking the operating budget and we're underspending in the projects category. So under personnel expenses, we are about 74% of year-to-date budget. And we had some savings under staff development and also some salary savings based on the timing of when we hired a new position. Under services and supplies, we are at 75% of our year-to-date budget. And that's because we have some savings here. We budgeted for administration costs related to the water supply reimbursement, but that won't happen. And so there should be some savings here. And reserves are booked at the end of the year. So under project expenditures, this big bar that you see on the on screen, this includes a number of items, but the two big ones are purchase of water and grant expenditures. And since we are lagging behind in grant expenditures, so that's where most of the underspending is coming from. And then if you look on the revenue side, I'll just go over sequentially here. We won't be receiving any water supply charge revenue this year. There was an adjustment made in mid-year. For property taxes, we received about 72% of our year-to-date budget. So this revenue is received in 3 installments. We received the second installment in April, and if we factor that into account, then we are tracking budget. User fees are about 95% of our year-to-date budget. Now, during the mid-year, we increased our user fee revenues by 10% because of the rate increase. So right now, this is at 95%. We'll see, how it lands at the end of the year. Pure water, Montreal water sales are 105% of the year-to-date estimated revenues. We've also received more revenues in capacity fees and interest revenue. This is again, and we think will be higher at the end of the year in both those categories. And then grant reimbursements. This is going to track the actual spending of the construction projects, and so that's where we're lagging here. And so much again, all the variance seems to be coming from the project side, specifically grants. And then again, at the end of the year, we will be booking reserves. So we have a number of reserves like pension reserve, OPEB, capital, and water supply charge too. And so all these reserves are typically booked at the end of the year when we close the books. So that's the summary. Big picture, our revenues are higher than expenditures at this point of the year, and we are doing decent financially.
Is the category you call grants and Pure Water Monterey, is that those 2 columns? Is that a new breakout on the revenue and expense side?
So there's a minor adjustment that we did in between reimbursement and grants based on if you compare this with the previous quarterly report, and we wanted to align this with what you see in the statement of revenues and expenditures, which is Exhibit C. So there's a 1-to-1 correlation, but the groupings is the same as we always had.
I know it's the grant money that when it comes in, how soon you spend it, or when you account for it, because you get committed, but you don't have it yet. And it's a timing issue, but it also distorts the images that are presented about our total finances because the project money is, and it's big money. So it's a big percentage. The look is affected.
Exactly. Yes. The capital projects, they cause the big variation in our budget, and that's why if you break out the operating versus the projects, you'll see what's actually happening. But we have these big grants for 11 million and 4.8 million, and that those big dollar amounts are kind of skewing everything else. I think that's going to be the case until we complete these big construction projects.
Well, in the state, sometimes there's a little lag in when receipts are submitted and when payment is generated. Maybe you're aware of this, Kate, that the state provides hard checks versus the federal government will wire you the money. So Pure Water Monterey just submitted a federal grant submission for reimbursement the 1st of May and got it the next day.
Oh, how beautiful.
So they're not.
But the 4th largest economy in the world has to write you a paper check.
Interesting.
So all these grant payments are quarterly reimbursements. So we get when we get the invoices in the next quarter, then we submit it to the state, and then the state reimburses it, and then we send it to the sub-grantees, which is Montreal and Water.
Wow.
There are timing issues.
Is the 4.8 the injection well from years ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the grant from the State Water Resources Control Board for this is the 6th injection well, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. So you didn't just get it all at once? No. Sorry.
Wishful. Let's go out to the public. Are there any comments?
Chair Riley, I see no raised hands.
Let's see, no other comments. I'll move a motion to recommend that the board approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now action item number 11, which is the 3rd quarter report.
Yeah, this is the 3rd quarter investment report, which is required per state law as well as our investment policy. And what it's highlighting is that we have enough liquid funds to meet our near-term obligations and operating expenditures. And the portfolio is also earning a decent yield overall of 3%, which is shown in that exhibit. And the exhibit provides a breakdown of where most of our cash and investments, all of our cash and investments are. So starting with Life, that's where most of our investments are. About 45% of our portfolio is earning about 4.3% in Life. And then we had almost 25% in the bank, followed by 30% in multi-bank securities. Now, for the 1st quarter of this fiscal year, we had a little more funds in bank than usual, and that's because we were still trying to sort out. We had to make payments, litigation-related payments for the water supply charge, and then we were prepared to actually reimburse the full amount, and now we know that's not the case. It's going to take a couple of months. So 1st quarter, there's more funds in the bank, but then in April, we moved 1.5 million to Life. And then this month, we plan to move an additional million, in Life or class. And I wanted to get the committee's buy-in if it's okay to move more funds into class, because we started this. This is a new investment pool that we started this fiscal year, and class has grown to about 1 billion in assets in February, and it offers a slightly higher yield.
This is class statewide, you said the one.
Class, yeah, California class statewide, and it's offering a slightly higher yield compared to Life. And so this time around, we're planning to split $500,000 to Life and $500,000 to class. And we want to bank those funds until they're needed, until the point when we actually need to disperse the water supply charge related.
And LACE, one more time, stands for?
Local Agency Investment Fund. It's offered by the state of California.
So they're both state.
California class is a JPA, and LAIF is a state entity.
Okay,
Class is a special district.
got it.
Based.
Okay.
Yes, it's only
Okay.
for California special districts.
Yeah, the special district group, they're really proud of the performance of the class fund here we're talking.
Mhm.
I'm glad we're participating in.
Cool. I
Yeah,
will look to my colleagues on this who have more familiarity with all of this and take their direction.
So I just have one question, which has to do with the Pebble Beach. I know I asked him the question ahead of the meeting, so
Thanks for the heads up on that.
What can you tell us, or whoever can add to it as well?
Yeah, so
My question was, we've been in this arrangement with the Community Services District of Pebble Beach. And we've had this relationship 30 years? Has it been that long?
1990s.
I remember now, but well, okay. And my question was, how long does this relationship last? And as that we report on? And that was my question.
Got it.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, the relationship began before 1990, but got formalized on or about 1992. So 33 years. And it will so for example, tomorrow we have a meeting with the Reclamation Management Committee. As long as the reclamation project functions, we'll still have a relationship. It's changed a little bit in that we still sell the water to all of the golf courses and Stevenson School. But the certificates of participation were paid off in July of 23. So it's been 2 years without the debt. But, last week we still participated in the budget cycle meeting. The week before, all the course superintendents met and we attended. And so we continue to keep our role, but we're an informal member, not a formal member of the management group. So that being said, we also bailed out the project for tank rehabilitation, you may recall. We were able to do lending to ourselves because it's our enterprise fund. And so rather than have a big expenditure, the district stepped in and in effect paid the full cost of the tank rehabilitation and then got repaid from the project over a 3-year period. So there's some benefit to having us around, and we would like to remain a partner. So, I see it for the conceivable future that we would stay involved, at least until after the next round of financing, because they're waiting on a master plan from Kennedy Jenks, which will kind of dictate how much capital needs to be spent to bring it's a 30-year-old project now, to bring it kind of back up to standard over the next 15 years. And I think from a capital planning standpoint, we really do add value to the group. So it may not really be necessary for the district to remain involved, but we do like our position of being involved.
Gentlemen, my question was that I knew we'd paid off the initial bond issue for the conversion. And I knew, anyway, I don't remember how recent it was, but it was 2023. And so that was really the source of my question. If we paid off the bond, what is the relationship that continues? So if we can self-finance and be in relationship so that we can self-finance, saves them money, it uses our ability, doesn't cost us anything, there's a benefit in both ways. Anyway, I'm just glad to get some clarification on that.
Yeah.
No problem.
So it looks like the district has been acting like a finance authority for the Pebble Beach Community Services District and can continue to be in that role. And that seems to be our prime value. But since we were involved in that transaction, we do they do act as an enterprise fund. So in the annual comprehensive financial report, you'll see the CORD project listed as a business type activity or an enterprise fund to the district. And as long as the agreement holds with PBCSD, I believe we would continue to carry them as an enterprise fund. And Dave can add to it.
But that's my curiosity on that. You're going to add something, Dave?
No, it's fine. We're good.
Okay. Well, I'll comments from the public. None?
No comment. No comments.
Okay, well, I'll move again that we recommend that the full board approve the third quarter investment report.
Second.
Looking for a second. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Now we're item number 12, and this was the one that had an.
Yeah, there's a revised attachment to this item which Sandra will be distributing. So item 12 is to consider a resolution establishing an appropriations limit for the district. And the appropriations limit, as you may know, establishes a spending cap from proceeds of taxes that the district levies. And Article 13B of the California Constitution provides a formula on how to calculate this appropriations limit, which is last year's appropriations adjusted for changes in price and population. And these numbers come from the State Department of Finance. They provide us the CPI increase and then the population adjustment for each city and each county. So we did that calculation, and our appropriations limit would increase by about 6.4%, which is, the same as the CPI increase. And so the new limit would be 2.37 million, which is what's mentioned in the resolution. And the district intends to collect about 3 million in tax proceeds in the coming year, but there are exemptions that apply. So for instance, there are exemptions related to capital outlays and contribution towards reserves and debt proceeds. And if we deduct those out, then our net proceeds of taxes, as you may see in the new attachment, is 1.9 million, which is below the appropriations limit. And so that means that the district need not return any excess tax proceeds. And so the recommendation for this item is to just adopt the appropriations limit for the next fiscal year in the amount of 2.37 million.
And this is an item that always causes confusion, I think, in my mind, because the state requires it. What are they protecting? What's the state protecting?
The state, so this thing was established in 1978, and the idea was to cap the spending of public jurisdictions at 1978 levels. And so any increases from that point on would be driven either by CPI or population. If the population increased, then you can get more money, or if the CPI increased, you get more money. But spending was capped at 1978 levels. And from that point, it's just doing this calculation every year. And then say, and so the idea is if any public jurisdiction were to collect more tax revenues than what the limit allows, then that jurisdiction needs to return the money back to the state. Now, there are certain carve-out exemptions that apply, which we have been using. So anything towards debt proceeds, capital outlay, and contribution towards reserves, among other things, is exempt. And so that's what we've been using, and if we take that into consideration, we're still below the appropriations limit.
So it's really tracking the results of the Prop 13.
The Prop, exactly, yes.
Proposition.
The Prop 4 and then Prop 13, yes.
Oh, and then there was a follow-up, yes, several follow-up pieces. Okay, well, I'm glad to get it explained every year because I forget it. When you're in the next one.
Thank you for explaining it to the newbie.
Okay, well, it's a requirement, and we passed muster again because of the exemption provisions, even though we expect more than what was kind of authorized. The exceptions are legally allowed, and therefore we're under the cap.
Yeah.
Under the cap. Okay, any questions or comments from the committee? Let's go out to the public again and try that.
Chair Riley, I see no raised hands.
Okay, we're back here. Even though I go through my little question mark every year, I will make a motion that we approve and recommend this the full board for approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That's item number 12. What was, by the way, what was the difference here between what was sent out with the package and what was and I just didn't see I didn't track the,
The difference was in the original calculation, we excluded retirement expenses. But then there's a minor distinction. It's contribution towards retirement reserves that could be excluded and not the full retirement expenses. And so after having a conversation with the district attorney, we corrected that. So that's what's being reflected.
all right, good. I meant to ask that earlier, but. Okay, we did that one well. Information reports, we're finished with the action items for our group. Are there questions at all on the information items? I know we're going to go over the proposed agenda next time, and I had a question for something. Well, it was a follow-up item on the Phil Wellman agreement. This is the outreach program. I just wanted to suggest that one item for future PR purposes might be what we as a district do that works with other agencies. And I'm just wondering if the regional water management plan can be focused somehow on how we help other agencies get money, because we're in the middle position of not only working out the plan, but also working out grant applications that benefit somebody else, doesn't benefit us, and may benefit the full peninsula. But that's one piece of it. And the other, just because we had the Pebble Beach discussion, that may be another place where we say how we help other agencies. Anyway, it's just a thought process and a thought about something to focus on in some future PR outreach effort. I'd just like the committee to consider something like that, or somebody. Can we go to the planned agenda?
Yeah, item 15, we'll pass on the May 29th. That's the special meeting for the board budget workshop. So it's a single item, but let's focus quickly on next Monday's regular board meeting agenda. There will be a closed session at 5 o'clock, and there are three issues now. So what was in the packet only reflected 2, which was the
Dave, let me just slow you down.
yeah.
The very first item, what time does the meeting start?
5 o'clock for closed session.
And what was just handed out was 6.
Well,
That's fine.
and Dave, they did get a revised agenda with just the items added, the closed session and
Okay.
I updated the title for the urban water management.
Yeah. Okay.
And I will update. It looks
Okay,
like.
just to make sure, the 6 o'clock is not.
I'm making notes as we're going along.
That's all.
Okay, I got it.
Got it, dude, thanks, okay, Dave, go on.
So anyway, there's 3 items. We did have, or we will have tomorrow, case management conference on the eminent domain proceeding. So that will be added. Actually, check that. That will not be added. What was added was the third closed session item. So now we've got our Coastal Commission discussion about next steps, and then we have the recently released, I think it was Friday afternoon, proposed decision in the CPUC phase 2 proceeding, the supply and demand proposed decision. And we'll be seeking direction on next steps for that one as well. And then of course, the very first one I probably didn't finish the sentence. That's the original cease and desist order lawsuit that the Sierra Club wants to be compensated, or the attorney for the Sierra Club wants to be compensated for legal fees, and recently filed a motion to dismiss the case. And the case had been in effect told or stayed and continued for, well, basically since 2009. So that's all that is fit to speak about publicly on it. The consent agenda is primarily what we just reviewed here at Finance and Administration. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things. There's item 14, which there may be a report back out. We'll see. But that's just related to the closed session items we talked about. And then item 16, this is not your typical quarterly water budget. This is once a year. At May 1st, the district needs to make a finding that we will not need to implement additional conservation measures such as rationing. So it's an update on the conditions of water supply, looking 17 months into the future, the 5 remaining months of the current water year, and then the full following water year. And if we're able to conclude, which we will be, that there's sufficient water supply, then there's no declaration of drought or rationing or any other form of action related to scarcity. Item 17, Michael Laredo invented this all by himself. Now there was a piece of legislation written into law which now requires annually to notify the public on status of vacancies and recruitment and retention for employee positions. Now, this will be our first time ever doing it.
What's in that kind of report?
So this is it's an interesting new piece of legislation that requires a public hearing. And in that public hearing, your job as a board is to receive an update. The purpose of it is to basically make sure that public employees aren't being overworked, that we're not holding on to vacancies for budget padding.
Yeah.
And really, this is a piece of legislation that was boosted by unions. It was a unionized workforce is saying, you're not hiring people on purpose and you're killing our guys by overworking them. So the way the legislation is drafted is you have to annually, before you adopt your budget, receive a presentation on vacancies, recruitment, and retention. And you have to allow a representative from your union, if they want, to come and make a similar presentation on what they need. There's additional requirements required in the presentation if you have vacancies more than 20%. I don't believe the district falls under that category at this point. So not at all. We've been seeing these presentations pop up around really, the brief presentations, because I think a lot of agencies, they just say these are our vacancies. We're trying to hire people. Nobody's coming or whatever they're doing. And then, obviously we have a very good retention policy because a lot of our employees have been here for a while. But yeah, it's an interesting new piece of legislation that became effective January 1 of this year.
So management makes the report to the board.
Management provides a presentation to the board, and then I don't think the union.
But they have an opportunity to speak to that issue if they choose to.
They have an opportunity to provide their own presentation, and then it's a public hearing, so you have to receive public comment as well, and then you close the hearing, and all you're doing is receiving the report.
Okay.
There's no action mandated.
Chair, I'm glad you're clarifying that, because our original plan was to include this as part of our budget workshop. But if it needs to be a standalone, then perhaps we'll keep it here. Okay.
Yeah, the law requires that you hold this public hearing prior to adoption
Of a budget.
Of your budget annually. So each year, I recommend you can certainly do it on the same night. You can do it, but it should be its own separate item. A lot of agencies are looking at it. Hey, we'll just start slating it going forward for one of our slower months where we can, where we need to fill our agenda. So, if you're holding it in January, February, or March, as long as you're doing it before you adopt an annual budget.
Yeah, no need to add to the budget.
Yeah,
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
All public agencies, the legislation?
all public agencies, yeah.
So moving on, item 18, you have a revised version in what was handed out to you on the urban water management plan. Normally, we would have brought this to today's Finance and Administration Committee. This will be a recommendation to hire a consultant for preparation of the district's first ever urban water management plan. It became a requirement when we sold our 3,000th acre foot wholesale through Cal-Am off the Pure Water Monterey project. And so, with a couple additional years under our belt to confirm that the project was going to work, we are now an urban water supplier as a wholesaler. So it will not be as full an urban water management plan as a retailer is required to submit, but it's still an undertaking. So that'll just move first to the full board because timing didn't work out to get it in front of this committee. The discussion item, the follow-up on the Water Master Board workshop, you may recall that in March, Water Supply Planning recommended to the full board to hear discussion on leakage as one of the subsets of issues in the Seaside Basin. And then we sent a letter off to the Water Master. They held a workshop addressing the letter, which raises a little bit follow-up that the board would benefit from hearing about. So that's what that will be, the discussion item. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Dave, were you on the one you're just talking about with the Water Master? Is there a plan to have an action item before the board, or is this going to remain in the discussion?
It will be general direction of the board. And I would anticipate if the board wants to, and we'll have a presentation from District Engineer Maureen Hamilton, kind of reminding that our interests and the Water Master interests are really the same. I think that this workshop that they held characterized the district improperly as maybe not having the same interests. And so I think one possible outcome would be, again, a general direction to staff to develop yet another letter to the Water Master clarifying certain positions. That we'll discuss next Monday.
Well, the reason I asked is I sat in on a water supply committee meeting as just an observer, so I just had, my brain was really busy that day. And so I got a long list of things that I have questions about, but I don't want to take, a half hour to pursue all of them. But I got a lot of reactions. I was on the Water Master Board for like 10 years not quite, but 6 years before I got off just a year ago. So there's a lot spinning in my brain about where I think they're weak and where I think they're off base and maybe we'll just line up generally on where you guys are going. But some of these are new thoughts, I thought, and I was just curious. But it's not like it's not a discussion to get an action item. It's a discussion to get the discussion fully developed.
Yeah.
Position can be formulated if we're going to formulate one.
Correct.
Okay. I'm okay. I just was antsy about it. Okay. All right.
I have one more thing on this.
Yes.
Just your board meeting schedule, and Sarah, I think we let you know I will not be at the budget. I've got a graduation of a child getting promoted.
Yes.
Yay.
I won't be able to be at the big special budget workshop. My apologies. Calm down.
Well, lucky you.
I'll be next Monday.
Okay, anything for the good of the order? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
So George, I missed the last one. Karen was here. How often does the finance committee